Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am so blessed and honored to be here with Paul Bennett, founder and CEO of Perchpeek. How's it going, Paul?
I'm good, Ben. Thanks very much. You absolutely nailed the pronunciation of Perchpeek there, which is a great start to the show.
It was Bennett I was worried about, believe
Yeah,
it or
that's
not,
true.
actually.
That's true.
No, yeah, no, it's great. It's great having you. I've been kind of following you and Perchpeek and some of the stuff you've been doing on LinkedIn and social, and I'm really kind of fascinated with it. So I'm excited to get into what Perchpeek does, what your story is, how you got into this business, what's happening in DSP, what's happening in the way that we are delivering global mobility services differently. What do you think the future is around service models and things? I really want to pick your brain on that. We got people tuning in right now. This is fantastic. Go ahead and hit that like button. Throw a comment in there. I want to know what your questions are about the different ways that we're going to be doing service delivery in global mobility. This is great. Hit that like button. I'm seeing you right now. Fantastic. We got Roman checking in. Harrison. Can we call him Harrison?
Yeah, Harrison's perfect. He loves it when
Harrison,
you call him
when he's in trouble. Harrison Lee, so excited for this one.
that. He's
AKA
the
Harry for his friends. We'll call him Harrison. Tim Quirk. Hello, Paul and Ben. Hashtag I am Western New York is happy to watch today's show. Hey, I want to also promote something. If you're watching right now, I want you to do me a big favor. I want to promote the global mobility industry's largest 50-50 raffle. Paul, do you know what a 50-50 raffle is? Is this something y'all have over there in the UK?
Honestly, if we do have it, I haven't come across it. So tell me in the fans what it is.
I'm going to tell you in the fans. So a 50-50 raffle is, it's depending on what state you're in, it's kind of like gambling. We're going to pretend it's not. This is a fundraiser, people.
It's a sneaky American way around gambling.
It's sneaky gambling. Okay, yeah. Not like you guys who just legalize it and deal with it, deal with exactly. The social impact. No, a 50-50 raffle is where you buy a ticket to the raffle. Do you know what a raffle is? Like a drawing?
Yeah,
raffle's a drawing. Okay, all right. So far,
I'm not that much of a Luddite.
Well, I don't know what translates in. I think raffles is like a place, like a commercial place. So anyway, all right. So here we go. So a 50-50 raffle. You buy a ticket. That ticket costs, let's say, $10, right? So it goes into the pool, and then half the prize money goes to the winner whose name is picked, and then half of it goes to charity.
Wow. Simple,
kind of. I don't know why I made it so complicated. But here's the point. The industry's largest 50-50 raffle is open thanks to the Detroit Regional Relocation Council for putting this together. The benefit goes to Move for Hunger, which aids in food insecurity. It's a phenomenal charity. Huge fan. But go check it out. The link is below. Stacy, can we throw the link into the comments also so people can click on it? Please go hit that link. I'd love it. This is great. Tim Hellenthal, speaking of Move for Hunger. Tim, my friend, hello. Just checking in today. Have a great day. When Tim Hellenthal is here, it is an amazing day. Janet Turner, my soul. Hey, Janet. Hey. Looking forward today. Awesome. This is great. Let me know who you are, where you are. Paul, where in the world are you right now?
So probably first story of the day. I was supposed to be in Copenhagen today. So I was supposed to be taking first trip of the year, flight booked for Saturday. But I'm sadly still in London because my housemate got coronavirus on Thursday, unfortunately. So she came down. Cue instant isolation, cue instant positive test for me as well. So I'm sitting here with corona just for you, Ben. Just for you, I've come out of coronavirus retirement to come on the show, and I'm tuning in from not even my bedroom. Exactly.
So all of a sudden now he comes on and exposes me. I didn't even do nothing. I'm minding my own business, trying to host a talk show. And Paul comes on here and exposes me to the Rona.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better.
Oh, not at all. I think I've got very, very lucky, to be honest, given how disastrous it's been for obviously millions of people around the world. I've been super, super lucky. And in the grand scheme of things, London is beautiful and sunny today, so it could be a lot worse.
Can we wish Paul a speedy recovery? And I hope you feel better, Paul. Throw it in the comments there. Hit that like button. Throw that little heart. Throw a little heart out there. Maybe that offering support. That weird hand that has a heart in it that offers support. Hit that one for him. Michael Bilodeau checking in. Gosh, you're like, what a bummer, man.
Yeah,
you just brought me down. I was like up here, and now you got the Rona, and I'm down here.
And it was one of those ones where you just go, wow, it's like so looking forward to. I've been hearing you've been starting to go on trips, meeting people again. I was so excited to go meet people, meet some clients, meet some new potential employees. It was like I was buzzing for the trip, and then you're kind of like, wow, back to self isolation, which we haven't had for a month or so in the UK, and it was like, wow, back to square one. But thankfully, I'm feeling good, which is the main thing.
And you're probably another 3 weeks away then from going on a trip, because then it's probably like negative tests, quarantine for
exactly.
Dang, man. Well, I hope you do all right with it, and Jameson, best wishes and prayers. Heart, look at this. Janet Turner, been there myself recently. Wishing you a mild, speedy recovery.
Thanks.
Some people don't care at all.
Just
good
exactly.
afternoon.
I noticed that Harrison's flown the nest here. No praise from him at all.
Flown the nest. Is that a Perchpeek pun?
Yeah, that is actually. That is. He's disappeared. He's skedaddled, and we'll probably try and sprinkle a few parrot puns in there just for you.
Well, okay, so that's my next question, because I do follow the social. Jack Jampel checking in. Jack, I want to know your thoughts on Perchpeek. I want to know your thoughts on apps. I want to know your thoughts on digitized service delivery and mobility. Jack, I want to know all about it. Harry has no sympathy whatsoever. You'll be fine, I'm sure. Stop complaining, he says. But I've noticed the bird a lot.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the bird?
Before I tell you the deal, do you like it or not? Because it's a really important question.
Well, I remember it. That's important. I mean, I'll be serious. I mean, some people still talk about how I wear a bow tie. I haven't worn a bow tie in 10 years.
True.
People remember it.
Yeah,
I made a complete ass out of myself a year and a half ago on stage at Lake Geneva, and I dropped 5 F-bombs in 5 minutes.
Wow.
People still talk about it.
Yeah, there we go.
Good or bad? I don't know. I'm not saying the parrot is on those levels. I'm just saying
exactly
it's memorable. So
yeah, and I think for us, where it came from is we started life very much, go into this later, but we were more focused on the home finding and had a pretty boring simple name, to be honest. And then things started to go a little better. We started to expand, and we thought, my co-founders and I were like, we kind of want to have a more fun name if we're going to build a business over the sort of next 10, 15 years. And we wanted to have an animal as our logo, and so we thought all of our favorite animals. We thought, God, parrots are just great, aren't they? They live in the best places. They're bright. They're colourful. And then we're desperately scrambling around for names to do with parrots, and then we sort of, I guess, we're forced to settle on Perchpeek. But
so the parrot came before the name.
Yes, exactly. So what we actually did was we were locked in. We were locked into having an animal as our logo and a fun, something bright, because we wanted to build something. Yeah, relocation should be an exciting time in people's lives, right? Not a stressful one. And so then we had a bunch of animals. We came up with a bunch of names, and we thought Perchpeek, we'll stick with it, which is great when people remember it, but it has been a couple of years of Perchpeek, Perchpeek, that sort of stuff. But by and large, people remember the Perchie, which is what counts.
Yeah, I mean that'll happen. I mean, people. Yeah, no, I hear you. That'll happen. So tell us. So Sienna is here. Wow. Sienna says, "I'm so excited to hear more about Perchpeek." So I am too. So tell us, what is Perchpeek, Paul?
Yeah, that is such a great question.
Do you get that a lot? Is that like the number one most asked question you get?
It is. It really is. And back in the days where you used to be able to go to dinner parties and cocktail parties, it was consistent. But so Perchpeek, what we do is help people relocate all around the world. And what we're trying to build, we're super young, is a platform where, regardless of whether you're moving to Sao Paulo or Seattle or Singapore, you can jump into Perchpeek and we'll guide you through every aspect of your move. So home finding, getting your stuff there, getting your bank account set up, all of that stuff. You'll be able to see a bunch of great content to do with it, self-serve lots of it, but also have our suite of relocation specialists to guide you through the process and be that helping hand at time of desperate need.
So, okay, so next question. So this is really interesting. So, do you think that you would compare more to a DSP or a relocation management company, RMC?
Yeah, so definitely for us, it's more to a DSP in that we are super focused on the person relocating. At the end of the day, most of the time it's an employee, but what our tech team spend their time doing, what our operations team spend their time doing is helping someone move from A to B and all of those constituent parts. We're not doing heaps and heaps of a lot of the policy stuff and disbursements that RMCs typically do. We're just focused on if someone needs to move to Seattle, if they move to Singapore, what are all the things they need to do there? How do we use tech to support that? And how do we use our relocation experts to support that? So typically, as with all these things, lines get blurred occasionally, but typically it's using us to do home finding, settling in, sometimes short-term accommodation, sometimes shipping as well. But it's nearly always based around the home finding plus the settling in.
So I've heard people say that you are like the Tinder for renting or the Tinder for home finding. Is that accurate? Or
yeah. So that was an early moniker for us. As I mentioned, we that anyone with a bit of time on their hands, if you jump into Perchpeek, you go in, you'll see a bunch of properties and you swipe through them, right if you love it, left if you don't like it. And I'm in a very long-term relationship, so
I know. Honestly, I found my wife before we had dating apps. Back when like dating online was like had a stigma around it. Like, oh, you guys met online. Ooh, okay, exactly. Good for you. I hope you're happy.
Exactly. Which seems crazy now, right? Like
now it's crazy.
That wasn't that long ago. Now it's surprising if someone didn't meet online. It's so nuts to change in that industry. But anyway. So for us, a lot of our technology is helping people find the right home in the right area, and the sort of Tinder style interface helps people to do that. And people get a little bit addicted, and particularly when they're relocating and they're just looking for, they're completely changing their lives and they're looking at areas and properties, and they just live that swipe life and just start keep on going, which is
that swipe life,
exactly.
That relo swipe life.
Exactly.
All right.
It's just as glamorous as dating, I promise you.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like sometimes I get off Tinder just to get on Perchpeek.
Exactly.
Yeah, just to mess around. This is great. People checking in here. Keep checking in. I want to know who you are, where you are, what you're doing right now. I want to know what your thoughts are on Perchpeek and the idea of that swipe life for relo. I want to know what your thoughts are on apps and relo and digitizing the experience. Is this where we're going? Just like dating, where my wife and I we met in a bar. Okay. Wow. Like good old fashioned way. Okay. And now people are just online, right? Is that how relo's going? Right? Is relo going from the very in-person manual manila folder, green screens, bar life to that swipe folder life? Yeah. So let's see here. Put it in the comments. I want to know your thoughts on that. Heather Jameson's all in on that 50-50 raffle. Go ahead and do it early and often. Harry Lee, if you're at home eating a snack at your desk, please go ahead and donate to that 50-50 raffle. Harry, I can see you. Keep your clothes on. Stacy here is enjoying the show. This is great. Oh, look at that. Heather's so quick. She got her tickets just now in those last 5 seconds that I commanded her to do so. She went and got those tickets. Let's see if it works again. Heather, go get more tickets. Let's see if she does it. Jana, hi, Paul. Hello from Rio.
Hey, Jana.
Ben, loving the Pride logo. Yeah, shout out to Pride Month. Next week, we've got a whole Pride week lined up. We got 5 wonderful episodes. with lots of representation. It's going to be great. So we got a little logo up there, which is cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
Paul Soley, I thought I was your soul. No, you're my Paul Soley. There's a difference. You got to listen. Yeah, no.
Do you like that one, Ben?
Do I like which one?
that joke.
Do I like it? I mean,
Yeah.
I like all my jokes. I mean, that's why I say them, right?
Yeah.
That's great. No, my jokes are terrible. I'm a dad. Let's see here. Richard's checking in. Hey, Melanie. Richard's saying there's plenty of parakeets in West London.
Exactly.
The name is totally legit.
That is true. There's loads in Hyde Park and other parts of West London.
Yep. Jameson says, haha, Paul, I thought when you started to lift your water ball, you stuffed parrot as a prop.
Exactly. I love it. I should have bought some of the stuffed parrots in, actually, just to float around the screen, live out. They'd love that little potted plant behind you there, Ben. They live for that stuff.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's great. You got to send me one of your stuffed parrots.
I would do.
I'd love it. That's great. Chris Blair, love what Perchpeek guys and girls are doing. Love Paul's passion for challenging the norm or the industry. I got a question about this, and keep these questions coming. Jack, I see you. Janet, I see you. Richard, I see you. Jackie, Jameson, keep these questions coming. Chris has a question. There's a question in this. Challenging the norm or the industry. What was your impression of the business when you got into it? And then was there a moment where you're like, wow, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or there's things that are done that I just didn't think it was going to be done this way? What were some of those moments?
Yeah, so we honestly about, and I've said this to Chris before, hey Chris, like we really 20 months ago didn't know anything about the relocation industry. We were just we didn't know what a DSP was, didn't know what an RMC was, didn't really know what HHG stood for. All of the good stuff we had no idea about, but we were helping people move around, mainly to London at the time, and we were sort of guiding them through their move just without knowing the lingo behind it. And then we, through one route or another, stumbled into a trade show, the FEM trade show in end of November 2019.
How did you get pointed in the right? Like, did you even know that there was an association for these things? Did you even know that you were in the relocation industry? Like, what was that revelation like?
It was honestly like a lot of the craziest things that have happened in Perchpeek have been through LinkedIn. And we were sort of thinking, God, we're helping a lot of people relocate. I was catching up with some former colleagues from Amazon who'd reload from Seattle and Bengaluru and all sorts of places. And they were just looking and they were like, wow, I'd love to have driven my reload through Perchpeek. You should check out that industry. This was around October. So then we just went on LinkedIn, found like relocation, found like global mobility specialists. Eventually got connected to someone at Server, had a random catch up with them, and they said, oh, you should go to the FEM trade show. It's literally 20 minutes from your office in London next week. And we were like, we had never heard of it. We called them up, said, oh yeah, how much for a stand? They were like, people normally book these things a little bit more in advance, but fine, take a table. So we scrambled together a bunch of parrots, got our like neon sign from the office, packed it, went to the trade show, and we were just learning. And this was the biggest light bulb moment for us, was we were showing people what we built and how we supported people without knowing any of the terminology around, DSPs, RMCs, kind of how companies did it. But we did know how employees and people were relocating. And I think probably the biggest light bulb moment for us was when, I think Chris was actually giving a talk at that that trade show, and sort of said, like, was giving a talk on costs in global mobility, and was sort of saying, wow, imagine if we could keep a expat package under 100K, and people going, wow, that's pretty affordable, and we're sort of there going, wow, it's really expensive to relocate people, isn't it? Obviously, there's loads of big costs involved, and that for those 2 days will live for us forever. We met so many amazing people and just instantly fell in love with the industry. We were kind of so many people, so many great people as well. great
What was
fun.
your thought? What was your mindset coming out of that meeting?
So our mindset was we need to completely focus on this industry because we know from what we've been doing already that there is a really good combination of tech and human support that can guide people through their relocation. And then we sort of met all these people that were saying, "Wow, there's a lot of desire for technology and improving the employee experience." And we were just sort of, when you just meet a bunch of people and you go, wow, how have I not known all these people like 20
My
minutes
whole life, right?
Yeah,
Where have
exactly.
you been my whole life?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
and then we just went through an absolute crash course in relocation.
Did you think when you had developed Perchpeek that your idea was like more novel maybe than it was, and then you meet a bunch of people that have been DSPs forever, and like was there a moment where you're like, hey, I thought we were like the first people that came up with this idea, and then we met a room full of people that like knew all about this kind of stuff?
100% right, because I think it's so hard to remember when you're in the relocation world that most people don't really know it exists and it's a thing, and it's really hard as a sort of company to remember that for lots of people each relocation is their first or maybe their second, and they have no idea. So if they're 3 weeks out and they're still searching for a home, that's so normal in lots of cities. They're like, oh my god, and it's really hard to remember that. So we sort of were like, wow, this has existed for a long time. There's lots of people that do it. We need to change some things to really do it even better. And it was just like this beautiful stage of learning for us. It was unreal.
I got one more question before we get into all these other questions we have here. And I see you, Jackie, Jameson. Keep these questions coming. There's some great questions here. But what did you do with that information? So you go into that room, you're like, hey, we've got the secret sauce. We've got the next best thing. You find a room full of people that know all about what you're doing. So on the one hand, you probably feel extremely validated. But on the other hand, you're like, wait, we're not as unique and novel as we thought we were. So leaving that, were you like, okay, well, we need to really sharpen our pencils here and define our USP, or what work came out of that for you?
Yeah, massively. So I think combination of both those factors you said, the two biggest takeaways for us at the time were one, there's a lot of appetite for technology, but we really need to double down on our human support to really so we built out our network of relocation specialists. And two, and this was a massive one at the time, we were just in London, and a lot of the people that tend to go to these trade shows, they work for big companies or RMCs, both of which said to us, it's great to have a different solution, and it's great to have this, but it's not that useful just having it in London as a it's kind of limiting. We can't roll this out to all of our clients. They move people to lots of different places, and that was really then the work for us in the first half of 2020, was figuring out how to scale internationally, and then how to really double down on our network of and sort of human support behind the scenes.
Yeah, because I mean, your business is hyper local with bringing expertise from a unique city that like only locals will know. But then you have to scale that across hundreds of cities globally.
Yeah,
in order to be scale, in order to be usable for your large enterprise clients, right?
Yeah, and it is and that was definitely something that dawned on us, was going from like an ambitious startup that was growing quite quickly to being like, wow, what we're being pushed towards building is this absolute beast of a product, right? And when we say product, we mean combination of tech platform that allows users to see content on their local city, see area information about their local city, see properties in their local city, but also get expert support from someone in that place who knows like about the utilities and internet and ins and outs and where to go. And that is a big endeavor. It's a powerful one, because if you think about most people thinking about moving somewhere in the world right now, it's a different process no matter where you're moving, and attempting to build a platform that sort of not necessarily standardizes it, but gives a consistent experience no matter where you're moving is, I think will stand us in good stead. And it's just building towards it and and making sure our tech and our operations stand up to scrutiny.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's quite a bit of scrutiny. And I want to talk about all that too,
sure.
as well, and what the friction points are. Let's see here. We got some great questions. Jack Jampel actually called into the show yesterday.
Wow.
In a first time moment.
That's crazy.
Jack was so pissed at me. He's like, "Give me your number. I'm calling you right now." No, I'm just kidding. But Jack, corporate guy from the US, Jack says, "Do you work with RMCs or are your services totally separate services?"
100%. So we work with RMCs. I would say, without putting numbers on it, the majority of our business comes through RMCs at the moment, and we love working with them. I think, without putting words in their mouth, there's some great use cases where we help them bring innovation to clients, support more people relocating, which is something we're super passionate about. Right? Not everyone moving around the world is going to get that, 80K package or a 4-day home finding. That's just not affordable for everyone, and particularly in the new landscape that we'll come on to. So to be able to help more people is something we're super passionate about, and we have a good platform for. So we work alongside them, and obviously happy to chat anytime, Jack, I should say.
Yeah, Jack can talk your ear off. Just kidding. Jack's great people. But to follow up on Jack's question, though, and take this one step further, how do you think the way RMCs utilize DSPs might change in the future? Or what are some of the gaps or opportunities you see there?
It's such a good question. I think there's going to be much closer collaboration in a lot of ways between RMCs and DSPs. And that's just our personal view, but where we work best is where we have really good relationships. We're in Slack channels, we're in WhatsApp groups with the RMCs, and we present that united front. And I think the big difference in business model now is that whereas DSP used to be quite moments in time, you have your 1-day home finding, your 1-day settling in, you kind of do it once you arrive on site. You maybe have your phone call before you leave, but really most stuff is moments. Whereas now DSP is drifting towards lines, not dots. And that's from the moment that they're first initiated all the way through to well after they've settled into their place.
What do you mean lines, not dots? That's fascinating.
Yeah, so I think it's that concept of the dots being, a day of home finding, a day of settling in, that is your like local expert support for that time, which doesn't necessarily match up really with how someone actually moves. No one necessarily, like if you're doing it by yourself, not many people do it that way, where they go, I'm going to do my 1 day of home finding and I'm going to do my 1 day of settling in, or 2 days or whatever. In reality, with so much information out there and available, as soon as someone finds out or even thinks they might be moving to Seattle or Singapore or Sao Paulo, they're jumping straight on the internet. They're in Reddit, they're in forums, they're asking their mum's friend who moved there 5 years ago for top tips. And actually, I think what we see is that DSPs are therefore going to have to stretch the amount of support they give into that line. So from the moment that they first think about moving to after they move, good DSPs are going to be with them throughout their relocation, rather than just those dot points where they do everything in 1 or 2 days, which is a massive challenge for traditional business model because of how they're set up, but we think leads to a better employee experience.
Well, how does a DSP get into the transferee's line of sight in that early stage? I mean, I was talking to somebody about an assignment last night at 11 o'clock p.m.
Wow.
And I'm like, hey, want to go on assignment? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then, and it's like, and I mean, how do you get into that decision making mode with them so early? I mean, unless your name is Google,
yeah.
How do you insert yourself in that process?
Yeah, well, and I think that's where, and this is where for us, technology has a huge advantage, right? Because if you can give people things to do almost before they actually have to do anything, so if you can give them like content to look at, areas to search, properties to swipe, then they can start doing that from the comfort of their sofa months in advance. Obviously, in terms of getting in their line of sight, we're very reliant either on the RMC or the company themselves to initiate them. But I think that's where we'll start seeing shifts over time, and is saying, look, almost as soon as that offer letter goes out or that request comes through Workday, right, boom, this gets initiated, and then they're with you throughout the journey. And then for HR, for RMCs, they're not having to handle a lot of those DSP questions. They're just with the DSP throughout, but it is a big challenge getting through to people early enough.
So we've got some really great questions coming in here. I want to make sure I get to all of them. Please be patient with me. Janet, Richard, Jack has a follow-up question here, and it's actually the same or very similar to Michael Bilodeau's question. What would you say is Perchpeek's differentiation proposition for the industry? Exactly. What are you doing that no one else is? Perchpeek would be a different animal.
Yeah, exactly.
And probably would not look so good on your shoulder.
That was a different variant, Michael, but we'll show you the mock-ups for Perchpeek.
Yeah, please show me Perchpeek. Yeah, so what are you doing that no one else is?
Yeah, so I think our differentiator is we allow people to self-serve, and that is through our technology. So swipe through properties. So we combine self-serve technology with our network of human support to allow people to be supported throughout their move. And lots, that's not completely unique. There's loads of great companies coming up out there, but that's what we think we do the best, is kind of that, combine that human support 24/7, always there with people, with the ability for assignees to go in, research lots of things themselves, drive their relocation themselves, but still get the expert support and the expert advice as and when needed.
Yeah, that's an interesting combination. I mean, doing that right, I mean, it's got to be a careful balance of self-service and curated expertise. If you're watching right now, I want to know your thoughts on the balance between self-service and human-centric approach. It's a thin line that people are trying to walk right now. Put it in the comments. I want to know what you think. We've got some other. Okay, Paul.
Well,
sure.
I was just
comments, live guest, whomever wants to talk about it.
It's just whilst the guests of Charming. I don't know if I see all the comments, but I'm seeing my name right now, so I'll jump in.
Seeing my name. Go ahead.
I think what we see is what technology provides is the opportunity to provide more support, because you can provide it over a longer period of time and 24/7 as well. So instead of you'll have your local expert, but if they're sleeping, on holiday, off sick, if it's driven through a platform, you can still have access to their entire file, every property they've swiped, every area they've looked at, any content they've hit up, any questions they've asked. So you can just provide a much more layered approach to support. Obviously, I'm incredibly biased, so take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I mean, and I was going to say, then what becomes the role of the human being then?
So this is something that we probably have become a lot more bullish on over the last 6 months, is properly expert advice and knowledge. When we look at all of the services we try and support via tech, there are some that are brilliant to support via technology, like recommending properties can be done really well through that, but negotiating someone's lease for them, we're miles away from being able to do that in a good tech. Not many brokers or agents are going to go, oh, that's cool that you just submitted a form with like asking for a discount or asking for a break clause. And that's where local experts, or actually there's just this new building going up in the city that you should look at, and that's where it's, instead of using the human support for everything, no matter how mundane. There are some things that technology is much better for than humans. It's using them for the right things, and that really is that expert support, rather than just every monotonous task involved in a relocation.
Yeah, I hear you. I work with several technology companies, and we talk about allowing human beings to do human things.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. We've got some great questions. I told Richard says, great idea. I wonder why the OTAs don't do the swipe thing, the online travel agencies, the travel websites. Are we going to be swiping everything, or are we just going to be like, no, get away? Yes, come on, more. Yeah. No, get away. Is that going to be our life? Like, we're just going to walk through life swiping away everything that's unpleasant to us?
Who knows? We'll see.
Let's see here. We've got questions. Janet Turner, where does Perchpeek get its relocation experts from, in-house or contracted?
That is a great question, Janet. So normally we contract them, and that's that enables us to be in more places. I won't go into our whole vetting process live on air because it will probably be quite a dull segment of the show.
We've only got 25 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, we normally contract them.
Let's see here. Sienna makes the comment, self-service is ideal because it's 24/7. They can swipe without having to call up and chat for a while at any point during the day.
Wow.
Do you find that people let's talk about consumer behavior. Do you find that people avoid telephone calls these days?
It is crazy. It is honestly so crazy.
Calling somebody without a prior appointment to do so is akin to showing up to their home and knocking on their door.
It's honestly, because we do it like when we get initiated, sometimes if they haven't replied to like the intro email, we will call them up and people are like so shocked. It's honestly, it's unbelievable. And it is crazy, right? Like normally people do want to book in for a Zoom call, but they always want to book in for a Zoom rather than like just have you call them up. It is crazy.
Furthermore, is getting on a conference call without the assistance of video odd for you now? Have you been on a call where you dialed in? I'm talking to my team. I'm doing a team call the other day, and I'm like, hey, y'all, what do you think about this idea? And it's quiet. I'm like, guys, until you tell me how you feel, I won't know. Yeah. I don't know what faces you're making. I don't know if you think I'm funny, if you think I'm an idiot, if your eyes are rolling, it's
so
I have no idea. I'm lacking so much context right now.
It's honestly, that is so true and so crazy. And phone calls are just so weird from that. So you can't be as expressive. Yeah, it's really, really hard to know.
Sandra's saying, I want to know what you think out there about this telephone, the death of the telephone. Sandra Clary, I call those ambush calls, not usually welcome. That used to be a thing. You weren't a good salesperson, biz dev person, unless you were banging the telephone, right? Unless you were making 100 calls a day, unless you were and now, like, I don't even know what this, I don't know what this device is, right? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Janet Turner says, I love the phone. Janet, you know what? That's why I call you at 11 o'clock at night when I want to have a glass of wine. And I'm like, hey, you know who would probably take my call right now? Janet Turner.
That's great. We like Janet.
Janet, you're awesome. He says, we love Janet. Richard says, Ben, you're killing the telephone single-handed right now. Richard, you a telephone person? Let me know.
Yeah. Although that is something that we also see is like, particularly in, as you know, relocations can get a little bit stressful at times, and if things are going wrong, as they do sometimes, and it's over text. Like, wow, sometimes a conversation is just so much better than like messaging to deflate tricky situations. That is so true, and even better still when it's over video. But so there's still huge context for human connection there.
Huge. Robert Brizuela says corporations and employees are always asking for really useful apps to facilitate their relocation and assignments. Robert, I agree with you. It seems like there's such a high demand for apps, but I would question the utilization rate. Have you seen this, Paul, as a person that sells technology and apps and things, that it's in high demand, but have you seen Have you seen utilization rates higher or lower than maybe what you expected coming into this 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
So I'd say there's a lot of demand for apps, and that the apps have to be good and useful to get high utilization. For us, an example is if we have a market where we don't have any content, then no one's going to go and use Perchpeek if we don't have any properties, we don't have any people there to guide them through. So it's just don't have anything about bank accounts, whatever. For us, we've been really surprised by utilization actually, and because I think when you say, right, they're going to guide you through your entire relocation, people are very, very interested. So for us, the problem isn't getting them to download the app. The problem is much more, or even just look. The problem is just making sure that when they're in, they're having a great experience, and that's kind of what we're really focused on. Because when you're relocating, you often don't really know where you're moving to. You don't know much about it. So if your company or RMC says, here's this platform, here's your account, just log in and discover amazing things about where you're going, most people will download that, but it's making it a quality experience to make sure that they come back and use it.
Right, because they probably going to be in there for about 30 seconds before they decide, am I never going to do this again?
Yeah.
So it needs to be super intuitive.
Yeah.
This is great. Richard, I agree. I hate the phone, hardly ever answer. Lizzie Beats, well, you better answer if I call. This is great when they start arguing. I love it. I love the phone. Big phone advocate there with Liz. I'm late. What are we chatting about? Thanks, Liz. Let's just, can we just go back to the very beginning of this conversation? Just do it all over. Liz, Paul has COVID. He's got a new app. It's amazing. There you go. You're up to speed. Dan from Little Rock. What up, Dad? Dad's in the house.
Nice. That's your dad?
Great. Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Hey, I think so.
That's Dad, awesome. Can we do a paternity test next time we get together? Just for Paul's peace of mind, that'd be great. Hosea checking in from Seattle. Hosea, up. Elizabeth, love Jack's phone call calling in yesterday. That's great. Christina's got a question. Christina says, I'm interested in what partnerships or offerings or pairings you see Perchpeek offering in the future, i.e. renters insurance, move insurance, storage. Seems to be a lot of insurance related comments. I'd love to know about moving household. I suspect, but I cannot confirm nor deny the existence of an agenda.
I love it. No, partnerships are going to be massive for us, and already are massive for us. So definitely reach out, Christina. But you can't, for what we're trying to build, that place where people can be guided through their entire experience. We're not going to do storage and move insurance in 45 countries. So we're reliant on partners to do that. So that's a big focus for us over the next year, is making sure that we have good partners for the highest priority verticals that our customers tell us they want and need.
So do you see yourself partnering with companies that offer other types of services, such as moving, such as immigration, tax, real estate?
Yeah. So just
corporate housing.
Yeah. So on those ones, if we just look at a few of those ones, typically just for where we are, most of the time people already have immigration and tax sorted by the time they get to us. Most of our clients use one of the big four. They use one of Fragamond or Newland Chase. Just to be completely candid, they'll often have an RMC already. So our partners are very much kind of shipping, corporate housing, stuff like insurance, sometimes great services to help set up utilities if it's relevant, just anything that helps improve the customer experience, and sort of slots neatly into the user journey within Perchpeek. We're always open to exploring through integrations.
Okay. Let's pursue that. Janet Turner. We love Janet. How does one become a partner supplier? What are the costs to become a supplier or vendor? Where do I send the check? These are the questions Janet wants to know.
Wow, that's it. We're just closing deals live on air. No,
that's what we do here. That's what we do. And I take a very small commission.
Yeah, exactly. We'll discuss that later. But no, so our approach to partnership certainly early on is that we just want to partner with the best people. So we tend to just try it out and see how it goes. There's not a set cost. There's not. They just have to email us. We're redoing our website at the moment, where there will be a dedicated space for partners and suppliers to email us. But you can just email me or email info@perchpeek.com and we'll get you set up as a partner. For us, it's all just about the quality of the experience.
Well, Christina will be in touch.
Great. I look forward to
I
it.
don't know if that's via email, phone,
LinkedIn,
or
maybe.
what, but she will be in touch. Elena has a question. Man, we got some really hard-hitting questions here. Hi, Paul. Could you describe the accessibility features of Perchpeek? Is it accessible to those who are visually impaired?
Well, that is a really great question, and I'm very sorry to say that it's not right now. And
I appreciate your honesty, though, because you could have like danced around that or whatever.
Yeah,
no, I respect the honesty there.
Yeah, and in reality, I don't think we've actually had that exact situation. But if someone doesn't want to use the app, which does happen in sort of 2 to 3% of moves that we do, or is unable to, they would typically just do it the old-fashioned way: emails, phone calls, etc. But that is something we'll definitely take away and think about.
Elena, any suggestions you have or links or whatever? Elena's pretty good for
yeah, that would be awesome. Please,
for those ideas.
Tips.
For sure. Let's see here. This. So 4 years ago, you were at Amazon, and here you are running a startup in the global mobility space, learning kind of as you go. You said how much you've learned in the last 20 months. And I think it's so cool because it reminds me of where I was probably 10 years ago, where, you come to this space and learning so much and getting the lay of the land and understanding who does what and how they all work together because it's so interdependent, right?
Yeah.
And mapping it all in your head. And Richard says, amazing that Paul and colleagues have moved so quickly. Does this mean the world is moving so fast that time in the industry is less important? I'm feeling old. Should I just leave quietly now?
I'm feeling bad for Richard now. Jesus, not at all.
Well, I mean, what do you think about that, though? I mean, you talk about innovation. We talk about, here I've been doing this show for 1.5 years, right? You've been doing this company for how long now?
Just over 2.5 years now.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, we've done pretty well making inroads.
Yeah.
This was an industry when I came into it 10 years ago, it was a very cliquish industry. If people hadn't, heard of you or knew of you, then they probably thought you weren't worth hearing from or knowing of. But I think that's changed quite a bit. What do you see the speed of innovation, iteration, and how fast things are moving nowadays? What are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, I think it's definitely speeding up, and in a weird way, the pandemic has only accelerated that because a lot of traditional service delivery models, stopped working as well. Like, you couldn't sit in a car with someone and drive around to the bank often. Stuff had to go online, stuff had to be done virtually. Lots of moves were delayed, so the ability to self-serve was even more important while someone's sitting at home. Speed of innovation, 100% catching up. Speeding up. What that definitely doesn't mean, though, is that time in industry is less important. It just gives you more inroads to be able to take advantage of that innovation and blend that with your experience to help sort of figure out which innovation is good, which is crap, and then
that's the other thing I think, and that's the reason I think a lot of skepticism comes about, right? Is because a lot of folks are like, well, there's innovators out here, but is it crap? Is some of this stuff not necessary? Is there not product market fit? Is it innovation for innovation's sake, or is it really delivering value?
Exactly. And I love that term, product market fit. That's something we talk about a lot at Perchpeek, because is this good? For us, is this good for our customers who are employees moving around? And we're constantly just thinking, are what we're doing from a tech, from a partnership, from a operations point of view, is this making it easier for someone to relocate somewhere in the world? Is it making it more seamless? Is it giving them access to more cool things? And innovation for innovation's sake is just pointless at the end of the day. So it's so important to try and find that product market fit. I think there's some super across different verticals. There's some amazing startups there who it's an exciting time because they'll both challenge traditional players, but then they're coming back with amazing offerings now as well. So ultimately it's just going to be good for customers who are people moving around, which is exciting.
Yeah, and interesting stuff. Jackie Rowan says, love the social mission element. Great idea. What's Jackie talking about?
Yeah, so Jackie, thanks for bringing that up. That's so for every person that we help relocate, we have a partnership with Centrepoint, which is a youth homelessness charity based in the UK. So we support a week in a shelter for someone that they're helping, which we've been doing for about 18 months now, just over actually 22 months, and is sort of very, very, I guess, it's constantly evolving, but it's very important to, I guess, the type of company we want to be as we grow up.
Why is that important to you?
I think when you're just starting out, and obviously we're super young, chances are that hope we're doing quite well right now, but obviously most startups fail, and it's a long road ahead. But if you're going to build a sustainable company, you kind of think, what type of company do we want it to be? And we want it to sort of give back to society. And whilst we do see a lot of value in our core mission of helping people move around, it's particularly at the big enterprise level, it's making something a lot less stressful, which is amazing. But there's so many people out there that are just so much less fortunate, and this is a great way to sort of tie our core mission with those less fortunate. And we'll keep even when we're a small company that's not big, it's kind of trying to bake it into identity so that it never becomes like a CSR plugin that when we're 1,000 people and suddenly we're like, oh, should we hire someone in CSR? And then we're like, it's sort of baked into our identity a little bit more.
Why youth homelessness? Why is that a cause for you?
Yeah, it's great. I think it's just, for me, it's such an obvious failing of society, which doesn't necessarily mean we should focus on it just because it's obvious and in front of you every day. But it feels like with all of the capabilities we have in the world, and if you're living in London or you're living in Dallas or Seattle, there's amazing things, and to see so much youth homelessness, it just feels like such a societal failure that we actually saw in London at the start of last year can be solved with some good resolve, and we can find places for these people to live. So it just feels like it should be a solvable problem even without some crazy new like scientific discovery. It feels like it's there to be solved in our lifetime. So, and that's one of the things for us. And thank you very much, Richard. That sounds great.
Yeah, Richard's going to be in touch regarding the homelessness thing. That's awesome. I love the power of these networks. We've got such an amazing community with hearts for people. I mean, that's a lot of times why we end up doing this and doing what we're doing now. And so I love how the community gets involved. It's wonderful. Jameson's got a question. Paul, I love how they like it. Paul, I might be relocating soon. Do y'all have stats, info, etc., to determine the better areas of a new city? I need stats, Paul. Stats.
Yeah. Oh, so we need a little bit more info on where you're moving to, Jameson. But yeah,
Jameson, where are you moving? Are you still watching? A and B? Where are you moving?
But yeah, no, and I think that's a great example of where you can use tech to provide a lot of those stats, just automatically update as cost of living, information on what bars, gyms, schools are in an area. You can just self-serve so much of that. We integrate a few things so people can just see it right there in the app and get that information. So no, we'd love to help, Jameson. Just hit us up on LinkedIn or wherever, and we'll get you your stats and info.
Jameson is a first timer from Mississippi.
Wow, Mississippi, that's huge. Yeah, no, we love stats. We're all geeks at heart at Perchpeek, so we love us some stats.
Awesome. I love stats too.
Great. What's
I'm
your
a little bit of a geek too. Can you count down from 5? because that's what I want to do right now. We want to do a top 5. You got that? That's some stats, all right? I want to do a top 5. You got a top 5 for us today, Paul?
Yeah, I've got a top 5.
What's your top 5 today, Paul?
I would say the top 5 talent challenges facing business leaders today.
All right, top 5 talent challenges facing business leaders today. You know what? Sounds great. Let's do it. What's number 5?
So, and this is a huge one in the light of last year, is it used to be just massive enterprise companies that had dozens of offices now, right? Whereas now top talent is expected to be able to work and live anywhere in the world. And so you're seeing this explosion in global mobility, which is so exciting for us all in the industry, right? I know you come from the household goods background. Movers have never been busier, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say never been busier. There's a lot of activity going on during COVID. There's also a lot of pent up demand, which is happening right now. But I think the demographics of the moves are different too. Just because somebody's on Perchpeek doesn't mean they're moving their sofa.
That's very true. That is
right, and vice versa, right? Because our friend here,
Jameson.
Gosh, what was your name again? Jameson. He could be moving from Jackson to Biloxi, and he's not on Perchpeek, but he's moving the sofa. So yeah, I think there's some really interesting activity right now.
Yeah, and I think specifically to this point, mobility often starts as you need to get some great talent to your headquarters, then you maybe open your first regional office. So you maybe have 2, and then you open a new office. That's the 3rd location, and it's linked to your entity. Whereas now it's people are asking to move everywhere, right? Like look at the number of people in the US moving to Miami, to Austin, to Denver, to smaller locations even, and that's hard to support. Like not many people have supply chains set up to support people moving to that many places, and that's definitely an opportunity to, I guess, use more tech focused solutions to support that wider array and provide a consistent support level no matter where people are moving to.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how people manage a growingly disparate workforce.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Number 4.
Keeping costs down while needing to stay competitive and bring in the best people, which we've only been in global mobility for 20 months, but I feel has probably been around in global mobility for 20 years. So I don't necessarily know if this is a new one. But what we see is there is almost everyone at some point has said, I'd love to go live in this place. There is huge demand to explore, live in new places. And that is a great way to both attract talent and retain talent, right? Is to allow them to relocate. But you're not going to be dishing out, hundreds of thousands of dollars at expat packages to let someone, go live in a cabin in Colorado. So trying to, attract and retain the best talent, but keeping the cost capped is a huge challenge. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what policy changes companies go for to sort of, I guess, wrestle with that higher volume of movers.
Yeah, no, it's cost containment has been a thing since I've been in the business. And what's interesting is it can't always just go one direction.
Yeah.
Right. Markets correct and rebound. Right. Exactly. But it seems to only be seems the pressure is kind of in one direction. Now, I know Jack disagree with me sometimes on this, and we did see some cost correction in household goods. I think we're going to see some cost correction in corporate housing due to market forces. But it always lags the cost of doing business. So it's interesting. Number 3.
One of my favorites. Facing challenges from startups who are able to offer more flexible working. Such a sort of an interesting one, this, because some of our startup clients who let employees work from anywhere, they have a much higher, we won't have time to go into the compliance risks of letting people work from anywhere, but let's just say startups have a much higher risk tolerance for doing that, and they're much more willing to push the boundaries. And so just today, I interviewed 2 people who were looking to leave massive tech companies because they were being asked to go back to their sort of HQ cities, and that's challenging, right? That is and that is going to be really interesting when for so long the dynamic has been free food, free beer, gyms, masseuses, which is still relevant for lots of people. But whenever startups are able to offer that flexibility in life, it's going to be tough for bigger enterprise clients.
I was literally just talking to somebody from a traditional workspace. They had their back to office happy hour yesterday. Back to office happy hour. Hey, everybody, come on back. We're going to take you out for drinks and appetizers. And this person who was a senior vice president was like, Ben, I do not want to go to this. I'm going to go for 5 minutes. I'm going to make sure the CEO sees my face. I'm going to make sure I talk to him first thing in the door. And then I'm leaving because I don't want to be here right now. And he said, any company that wanted to come into my space and offer flexible work arrangements could go out and snap up the top talent in my business without even offering them more money, probably.
Yeah.
But no company is doing it yet because I'm from a very traditional sector.
Yeah.
But I see an enormous opportunity for companies, for mature companies who want to be flexible, and for nimble startups like yourself, like myself, and others out there to gobble up tremendous talent share and thus market share by being flexible.
Yeah.
Huge opportunity.
That's exciting. Really exciting, to be honest.
Huge. Number 2.
This is a long one. Need to balance keeping a strong and cohesive team while catering to the new demand for a more balanced and remote lifestyle to retain your best people. Really a perfect extension of what we were just speaking about, which is if you don't see anyone, how do you create a good atmosphere and a good culture? That's, as to use the point we just discussed, a good culture isn't necessarily just the Friday beer trolley, but seeing people in person is so amazing. And it's one of the things I love about this industry in particular. There's so many amazing people who just love that in-person connection. And I think that's kind of been put on ice during the pandemic because retreats and catch-ups haven't been, possible to happen. It's not going to be go to the office, put your headphones in, reply to emails all day, pick up your laptop, leave, because that's not doing it either. But kind of how do you blend remote experiences, in-person experiences to create that sort of cohesive team that is more than the sum of its parts rather than just individuals grafting away. And that's, again, there's so much innovation in that space as well, which is just going to explode post-pandemic whenever sort of retreats and hybrid work structures are more possible, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a way to actually build culture and communication and collaboration in a remote world. I've thought about this, and I've heard arguments on both sides, and I think there's definitely a way to do it. I think it requires different skills from your management team. I think it requires, less like cubicle pop in, kind of like Bill Lumberg style, and I think more like being super present and active on your social networks, so that people can feel your presence where they are. Yeah. I mean, somebody told me, "Oh, Ben, you live on LinkedIn." I'm like, in a weird way, I kind of do. It's my virtual world. Yeah. I'm living here. We're having a conversation. People are chiming in. Like, we are living life here.
It's so true. It's so true. And you can't, we've never met in person before, sadly. Hopefully we will one day. But you can tell you're an outgoing person that in a physical environment your sort of personality would just shine. Quick chat, hello, quick, how are you, how your family, very charismatic, etc. That doesn't come through whenever you're just sat at home and you're working from home. You have to be a lot more intentional with your communication. Great point.
Just different skills, right? Yeah. Really number 1,
the talent shortage. Again, not a new one, but you touch wood, we're seeing the economy start to race back, particularly in the tech sector, finding adequate people, but across lots of different sectors, to be honest, finding adequate people and finding, like, particularly in this new world of like recruiting practices are changing so much, right? It's not necessarily all in person. You might be recruiting remotely, and it's just a huge change, and particularly for bigger businesses who have hiring, hundreds, if not thousands of people a year, to do that is really hard and maintain the quality bar. And particularly in a sort of a remote or hybrid workspace, you kind of the threshold for talent is so much higher because you have to have people that you trust and that are self-starters and don't need someone sort of poking over their shoulder. And that's it's so on top of everyone's mind. Mobility is always a massive factor in talent shortages, right? It's why it's an exciting time for the industry because it, if your work can help you fulfill other life ambitions around where you live, that's such a big asset. But that I don't know about you, but we just hear the talent shortage again and again, and pressures on hiring so present as companies start to massively ramp back up, and it sort of towards the end of the pandemic.
Yeah, the pressures on hiring though come from the parameters as well, right? So we make it out to be a lack of people that fit the mold, but I think sometimes it's the mold that we're trying to fit,
True.
which is the problem. So if we take out the very simple requirement in the job based in London, if we take that requirement out, the world gets really big all of a sudden.
That is,
And now that work is digitized, it used to be back in the day, back when people were chain smoking in offices and stuffing interoffice envelopes and sending them to the admin who'd run them up to the third floor and then drop them off in another admin's box. And then they pass them to the boss who would dictate a letter that not read it, but dictate it. And then, back when we were on typewriters and stuff,
exactly.
Being in the office was super critical because the work wasn't digitized and therefore it's hard to supervise. But now that the work is digitized, it can be measured, tracked, measured, QA'd, everything, and so I think that once we open our mind about the types of work relationships and also contractors, I know your organization uses contractors. My organization uses a lot of contractors. I am a contractor for other organizations. So I think when we start to think about, the gig worker or the fractional knowledge worker, I think that there's a lot of options out there to help people fill this talent short, but it takes a lot of entrepreneurial thinking from large corporations, and that is not oftentimes in the culture.
Exactly, and it's so much change in that type of thing, and the agility to think about different working arrangements, and because then, as you say, like we've went from 6 people pre-pandemic who used to go into a room in London every day to now basically everyone we've hired since. We're spread across 10 countries and dozens of people. It's kind of, but half of whom I've never met. Hopefully we'll meet at some point, but you have to have that, the world is a big place. There's lots of amazing people. It's just finding them and creating working arrangements and environments that suit their needs.
Yeah, this has been great, Paul. This has been a great top 5 here. Paul Bennett, founder and CEO of Perchpeek. Paul, this has been wonderful. Everyone out there in the comments, the questions have been tremendous. Thank you so much out there in the comments. Hit that like button. Give yourself a round of applause. Hit that green little applause button. Give yourself a round of applause out there. You've been wonderful. Paul, leave us with a final thought. What should we be thinking about as we go into Friday?
As we go into Friday,
forget the Friday part. Just what should we be thinking about?
Yeah, I think it's for me something we consistently ask about is what can we do to serve our customers better, and that kind of customer can be very loose, right? It can be a client, it can be a peer, it can be whatever it might be, and I don't know, that's just a super useful framework for us to kind of prioritize our time heading into a Friday. I know you're off tomorrow, but lots of the guests are going to have to be trundling through work, so it just sort of kind of what can we do to, I guess, like improve because it's so easy to get bogged down in admin and things you feel you should do. So that's what we'll be thinking about and thinking of tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of people are taking Friday. They're doing no meeting Friday just so they can get through their admin and make sure they go into to the weekend with a clean desk and a clean inbox and
Yeah.
clean whatever. Sandra Clary's hoping you feel better soon,
Cheers,
Paul.
Sandra. Feel the love.
Yeah, and she's also pointing out and trust as well as outcome focus, output versus input for remote teams. Sandra, excellent point as well. This has been great, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Paul Bennett, founder and CEO, Perchpeek. Thank you for being here, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Cheers for having me, Ben. A lot of fun. I'll come again.
Awesome. Please do. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week. It is Pride Week, so make sure to boost that and support that. We will see you next week with tons of wonderful stories and perspectives. Can't wait. Everybody have a great